Hey guys, it's Carl Brown from guitarlessons365.com. Got a beautiful song for you guys today. We'll learn how to do Is This Love by Whitesnake. This has got some interesting, there's a lot of guitar layers in this thing. So there's a lot of harmony guitar work. As you can probably tell, it's a really highly produced track. A lot of overdubs, guitar kind of layering going on. It just really creates that real spacious kind of cavernous effect of the guitar parts. So what I'm going to do is not all of those harmonies. We just kind of do the main line, something that you could do pretty much mostly on your own, or maybe with just kind of a couple guitar players is all you'll need to get a good convincing version of this. So a lot of the stuff that's overdubbed, like those harmonics I was doing, it's kind of overdubbed on the original recording. So they ring over while he's playing this stuff, but I was kind of going back and forth between the two, which, you know, is how you'll have to play it live anyway. All right, but before I get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and please, ring that notification bell, like and comment on the video so you can kind of help me out with the YouTube algorithm kind of madness, whatever it's doing for that particular week. And if you really want to support what I do here on YouTube with all these song lessons, click the link to my Academy below, and you'll see it in the description. It gives you a free 7-day trial of my Academy. My Academy is the #1 way to support what I do here on YouTube. And by becoming a member of Academy, you get access to all of my guitar courses, including complete beginner courses to more advanced courses on technique, improvisation, ear training, theory. There's a huge guitar tone course in there on how to develop your own guitar tone. So it's a lot of stuff in there, and you get personalized support from me. So please click that link below. Get a free 7-day trial and really help out what I do here on YouTube as well. All right, so let's jump into it. So I'm in standard tuning here. So John Sykes was the guitar player on this, and he just created some really cool stuff, but there was a lot of stuff going on here. So we're gonna kind of, not simplify it, we're just kind of arrange it where it can be mostly played on one guitar. But I'm also gonna tackle the guitar solos. The first guitar solo, which is pretty much like a harmonized solo, we'll take a look at the top line, so the main harmony part. And then for the main solo, we'll take a look at the whole thing, note for note. All right, so let's get into it. Now for the intro, we have this going on. All right, so especially that little last chord thing, there's a lot of things going on, like maybe some keys going on with it. So let's start here with this little, I'm gonna start with the open A string, hammer on the 2nd fret, and hit the low E open. Kind of sets everything off. And then we have this first group of harmonics. Now this part, what we're playing right here, is pretty much the verse of the song too. And what is different about this very first group of harmonics that you hit in the verse is he layers them with other ones down here, just kind of regular fretted notes down here in open strings. So we have this, instead of going, you'll also hear this going on. So it's really heard during the first instance, like right at the beginning of, well, this intro riff, but also the very beginning of each verse. You'll hear that. So you're basically hearing two things, so you can decide which one to do. So when you first hear it, you might go that, and then have this, or that instead. I like that one, kind of mix it up so it's not always harmonics each time. And then we have this part. So that's going to be the 2nd fret on the A string, 4th fret on the D, then open G. So we have this. So you pick that A string, D string, open G, then move up to this C note here, which is the 3rd fret on the A string. And you're going to add now the 3rd fret there on the B string, the D note there. So we have this. So when you get to this chord, you're going to pick from the A string, then the D string, which is being held the 4th fret there, that F sharp, and then you play skip over to the B, open G, and then back to the D string. So we have this. So far. Or, like I said, you can either do, instead of those harmonics, you can do this. Which I kind of prefer that one. And then after you've done this, that first little riff that you're gonna repeat this a couple more times in the intro here. It goes to a new set of harmonics, which kind of stays the same, except for after the first solo. When we get to verse number 2, these harmonics will change here. But for right now, they stay consistent like this. So that's a 5th fret harmonic on the G string. Then the 7th fret harmonic on the B, 7th on the G, and 7th on the D. So we have this so far, both sections. All right, then you go to that same riff we just did. And then some new harmonics, which is kind of similar to what we did the first time through. It's just going to be the 7th fret on the D, 7th on the B, and 7th on the G. Back to the same riff. And then we have this little ending. Now this part right here is there's a lot of music, kind of orchestration going on here with like keys, I think, some guitar, real big bass sound on it. But the overall harmony is kind of like this. So it starts with this E minor triad right here. So this is going to be the 9th fret on the D and the G, 8th fret on the B. Then you're going to get to this D major triad, which is going to be borrowing the 7th fret across the D, G, and the B string. So with this, kind of play them staccato. So you just kind of let them off after you play them. And then move this down to the C, so just down 2 frets to a C major triad. And then we have the 5th fret there on the D, 4th on the G, 3rd on the B. So we have this. And then from here, we're going to go. So what I'm doing here, and now some of this might not all be actually played on the guitar. It might be like more of a on the recording, but when you add all the kind of the synth stuff in there, it kind of all fills out into this chord. So I'm going to add it to the guitar part. So we have the 3rd fret on the A, 3rd fret on the D, open G, and open B. So that's when you've kind of, it's not like a straight strum. You kind of drag the pick from the 5th string across to the B. Open B. Then you grab the 1st fret on the B and 2nd fret on the G. And it all ends up being an F major chord in second version. So we have this. So far we have this. Then we get to the verse. Now the verse is, like I said, pretty much the same thing. I like to start this first instead of going up here like that, which you will hear on the recording, but you'll also hear this. I kind of, if you're going to choose which one, I like to kind of start it with that. Which is that open high E, 3rd fret on the B, open G. And then everything's the same as in the intro after that. Start again. you'll probably notice that I'm doing some really light when I get to the harmonics and let them ring. A slight little shimmer on the whammy bar, just to kind of give that little floating sound. The chorus pedal that they have on this kind of helps do that too, but that little bit of a shimmer with the whammy really kind of brings it out. All right, and then we get to the chorus where there is two distinct parts going on here. So let me first stick with the clean section. So we had this, is this love? The first solo comes in. So that's pretty simple stuff. It's just 4th fret on the D, open G, and 3rd fret on the B. Do that again. So the little underlying chord movement is done by the other guitar, so that's why this is kind of a layer. And then at this point, now the clean guitar goes up and does that same ending that's in the verse, but it kind of just stops on that F. Sorry, the G major chord, and then back down. And then you do the full little chord progression that we did earlier. All right, so that's what's going on for the clean guitars. Let's just say this. It's a good way of kind of arranging what's going on the track. There's more than 2 guitars there on the recording. Especially here, I'm going to kick in some distortion here, and you're going to see, now this is the one that's actually doing more of the chord progression, but it also, when the clean guitar is doing the little chord thing at the end, the little triads where it's going descending that we've played a few times now, it goes up into a harmony guitar part for the distortion. I'm just going to jump up there and do the high part of the harmony, which is the only kind of part we're going to learn. And so you'll see what I mean. So I'll play through it. So here we go. Is this love? All right, so pretty simple so far. It's going to get a little bit more difficult when we get to the solo. But we're going to start here with just this C power chord. So kind of chunking on the C power chord for the 3rd fret of the A string there. Then what it does is it has this C chord and it plays up on top, a D major triad. So you play, the best way to do this is bar across the 2nd fret there, across the top 3 strings, and then add the 3rd fret there on the B string. You can do it here. But every single time I see people play it that are actually in Whitesnake, I know it's kind of a revolving cast, they're always playing it down here. So I'm just going to do it down here. All right, now from there, we go to the same D triad. With the B in the bass. So we have, you can just bar across the 2nd fret there, across the top 5 strings, and the bass note now is the 2nd fret on the A string. But you're still kind of going against that B triad up top. So you kind of do this. You hit the D triad, then go down to the root note a couple times. So it goes back and forth between the. So kind of like that. And then we're going to jump up here to the, which is just kind of a half step bend at the 14th fret on the high E string. Then pick 14 without the bend. Then 12 on the high E. Over to 15 on the B. So we have this. And then do the same riff we did before. And then we go back up here again. This is when we're doing it. Which is just that same melody. Hit that 15 a couple times, then go back up to the high E to end it. 12th fret a couple times. All right, and then we get, so those are the two chorus sections. So then we have the first solo, which is really kind of abbreviated version of the verse riff. So if we go back to the clean setting, we have this kind of like this. All right, so pretty simple. Low E string, open G, 3rd fret on the B, back to the open G. Let those ring. Then that same riff that we do in the intro and the verse. And then just repeat all that one more time. All right, so that's what's going on underneath that first solo. It's a really short little solo. So let me play the solo itself. Now I'm just gonna play the top line here. So not the full harmony. So it's a really highly layered kind of guitar part, but I'm just gonna kind of do this like sensible. You'll have a rhythm guitar play this, you'll play this, or vice versa, and then you don't have so many guitar players in your band to do all the harmonies. So I'm not gonna cover them. So we're gonna have this for the solo. So it's a solo that's played, it's kind of a simple melody, but it's done with this bar dive that's kind of swelled. So you slightly depress the whammy bar each time, and then let it come back up to pitch. So that's all you have to do. This is a slight bar dip right before the note. Play the note and then let the bar come up. And don't mess up like I just did. So anyway, the melody note is this. The melody itself. And then this last one, I will play a couple of the harmony notes because the top one by itself is really low in the mix, and you actually hear the lower one, so it wouldn't sound that great. So it's good to just kind of end it like that with two of the harmony notes at least. So the melody note, 15th fret on the high E string. Do it a couple times there. And then 14. And then 14 again, and then 15, 12. So we have this without the bar. Then we play 12 again, go to 12, 14. And then over to the B string, 15, 12, and then we're going to end it with 12 on the D and 14 on the G. So all together. All right, so that's it for the first solo. Now, verse number 2, very similar to the stuff we did before. We just basically have a slightly different harmonics there. So it kind of starts like this. So we did that kind of ending section twice there too. So we start with the harmonics. It's like kind of like the upper harmonic layer that we did earlier. So that's the same really. However version you wanted to play of the verse, you might be playing that. And then we do the same riff. And it's these middle harmonics, which were like this in the first verse. All right? But now it's going to be this. Which that's really an overdub, because as soon as he hits, you got to really jump back and grab that. But it rings on the recording, so it's kind of hard to make it sound. Trying to make it work. Anyway, so that is the harmonica, the 5th fret on the G again, 7th on the B, 7th on the G. Then you jump up here to the 12th fret. 12th fret on the B, 12th fret on the high E. Remember, this is just the verse that happens over after the first little short solo. And then the same ending as before that we've always had in the verse. And then we have this same ending with the chord, the triads. And then right here, we're going to do this ending twice. And then we get back to the same chorus again. So the clean guitar part and the distortion guitar part kind of working together. And then we get to the main solo, which is a really killer solo by John Sykes. It's one of the more popular solos of the whole era, really. So over that solo, once again, the rhythm for the solo, very simple. Here's the thing, it's kind of like the rhythm underneath the first solo. So you can just do that. But it could be on just the keys that are adding some other notes in there. And one note that's added in there that sounds pretty good is this A. So we have this. You could do this as well. So that's in the harmony as well. So when I'm playing it, sometimes I like to switch back and forth. I'll play like the open G string version of it first. So ending with that open G, and then do the riff. And then play the same riff. But the second time through, add instead of like hitting the open G again, end it with the second fret there, that A there on the G string. So we have this. It's very slight, but it is on the recording there. So if you're hearing that, and you don't have to do it, but you can do it every other time or every time, it doesn't really matter, but it sounds really great either way. All right, so that's all that's going on underneath the solo. Once again, we have that same little kind of twice with the ending at the end of the solo there as well too. So let me jump to the fun stuff. I'm gonna take care of the solo here for you. So let me play through it, and then I'll show you guys how to play it note for note. All right, so very, very awesome solo there. So we're going to start with 14-12 on the D string, kind of muted. I'll turn the delays off for you. So we have this. And then what we're going to do is do a kind of a quick bend and release of the 4th fret, and then bend it back up, all on the G string. So whole step bend there. Let that ring. Slowly release the bend, and then play 12. By the way, I'm on my neck pickup here. Down to 12th fret on the G, and then down to the 11th fret. And that's kind of just kind of half step bend and releases kind of over and over again. So we have this. All right, then we have this quick little run. So that right there is going to start with the 12th fret on the, you can slide into it if you want, on the low E string, then over to the 15th fret on the low E, over to 14 on the A string, then play 12 on the D, hammer on to the 16th fret there on the D. Then you're going to slide from the 12th fret, play the 12th fret on the G, and slide to 14. And then play 16 on the G. All right, from there we have this. So that's a bend, a whole set bend at the 17th fret on the B string. Release. Over to 14th fret there on the G, and then a couple of bends at the 15th fret on the B string. So, all right, from there we have this next phrase. All right, so that's going to be a hammer on from 12 to 15 on the B. Then you're going to pick the 14th fret on the high E string twice. Pull off to 12. Then over to 15 on the B string. And then we have this. This is kind of a blues thing here. We have a bend and release at the 14th fret on the G. Pull off to 12, go back to that 14 on the G, then over to the 14th fret on the D. So we had this. Then to the 12th fret on the G twice, and then back to that 14th fret on the D. So slow. Then he just kind of slides that down. All right, so the next phrase, we have this. So that is going to be sliding into the 12th fret on the B string, roll over to the 12th fret on the high E, then go back down to that B string, 12th fret. Then play 14 on the high E, back down to the 12 on the B. This little pedal point thing here. Then 15th fret on the high E, back down to the 12 on the B. And then into a bend now at the 15th fret on the high E string. Release, pull off to 14, and then back to 15. So we had this right here. All right, next phrase. So that is the same kind of lead up, except it's played slower. So if you hear it in context at the speed, right here. So it's the same note, it's just kind of timed a little bit slower. And then go up to the bend up here at the 17th fret, a whole step bend on the high E. Release, pull off to 15, and then back to that 17. All right, and then this last little section, which I'll do all together, looks like this. All right, so that starts with this 19th fret on the G string hit twice. And then play the 20th fret high on the high E string, a whole step bend. And then play 20 without the bend. Then do a half step bend and release at the 19th fret there. then over to 20 on the B, then into a bend at the 19th fret on the G string, into the 17th fret there on the B, so we have this. Then you're going to play the 20th fret on the B, and then bend to that note from a half step below on the 19th fret on the B string. So we have this. Then you're going to release, pull off to 17, and then back to that bend on the 19 and back to the 17. And then what it does, it kind of rakes from the 17th fret across to the 20th fret on the 17th fret on the B to the 20th fret on the high E. And it plays 20, 19, 17, and to a couple of bends at the 20th fret on the B. So we have this all together. All right, and then there's a quick little lick thrown in here. It might be a little overdub. It looks like this. So it's a fast lick, and I'm going to do it down here because it gets closer to where you can do that melody. But it's and it also is easier to play down here. So we have this. That's a couple of pull-offs from 17 to 15 on the B. And then pull off 17, 16, 14 on the G. And then over to the 17 on the D, and you can maybe pull off to the 16. He kind of continues. It almost sounds like he goes back up, starts going back up, but then the overdub, the main melody comes in over it. So you might want to jump to that. So I kind of just do it like this. So I kind of bail out on that lick at the very end just so I can grab the. Keep in mind these are all recorded separately. So we have. So you can kind of stop right there if you want. And then just go into that melody. Half step bend release at the 14. Then down to 12. 15 on the B. Pick that again. Now, some people might go just back to the 12 and hit it a couple times like we did earlier, but in this solo, sounds like he kind of, part of it, at least one of them, bends up to that note. So I like that, especially since it's part of a solo. All right, so it's a great, beautiful melodic solo, but it's got some tricky stuff in it as well. All right, so from there, it just goes back through the exact same chorus section that we did before, kind of until it fades out. It's kind of an extended chorus there. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a great song, kind of a classic 80s ballad, and you really can't go wrong with it. And John Sykes has some really great guitar stuff on it. All right, I'll see you guys again soon for guitarlessons365.com.